During the Great Depression, Americans discovered that high-fiber vegetables kept them fuller for longer when every penny counted. Today, with grocery prices climbing, these forgotten fiber powerhouses deserve another look. Let's explore 15 high-fiber vegetables from the 1930s that can help us stay satisfied while stretching our food budget. Jerusalem artichoke. Jerusalem artichokes, also called sunchokes, were a Depression-era secret weapon for staying satisfied. These knobby tubers contain a special type of fiber called inulin that digests very slowly, keeping hunger at bay for hours. What made Jerusalem artichokes particularly valuable during the 1930s was their incredible ease of growing. Once planted, they required virtually no care and would return year after year, sometimes too enthusiastically. They thrived in poor soil where other vegetables struggled, making them accessible even to families with limited gardening experience. The inulin fiber in Jerusalem artichokes doesn't cause the same blood sugar spikes as starchy potatoes, making them especially valuable for sustained energy. This same fiber acts as a prebiotic, feeding beneficial gut bacteria, something our grandparents understood intuitively long before science confirmed it. Depression-era cooks would prepare Jerusalem artichokes much like potatoes, roasted, boiled, or added to soups and stews. They have a slightly sweet, nutty flavor, often described as a cross between potatoes and water chestnuts. Families would harvest them throughout fall and winter, digging them as needed and leaving the rest in the ground as natural storage, a practice that ensured fresh vegetables even when other crops were long gone. Winter squash. Winter squash varieties were Depression-era essentials, providing 6.5 grams of fiber per cup, along with exceptional storage capabilities and calorie density. Unlike summer squash, these hard-shelled varieties could be stored for months without refrigeration, making them crucial for winter food security. What made winter squash particularly valuable during the 1930s was their remarkable shelf life. Varieties like Blue Hubbard, Boston Marrow, and Butternut could be harvested in fall and stored in a cool, dry place until spring with no special equipment. A single large Hubbard squash could weigh 15 to 20 pounds and provide multiple meals for a family. The fiber in winter squash, combined with their complex carbohydrates, creates a slow, steady release of energy that prevented the hunger rebounds common with simpler foods. Their natural sweetness satisfied cravings when sugar was rationed or too expensive, making them both nutritious and psychologically satisfying during difficult times. Growing winter squash requires space but minimal care. Plant seeds directly in the garden after all danger of frost has passed, giving them plenty of room to spread. Depression-era families would harvest them in fall before frost, cure them for a week in a warm place to harden the shells and heal any cuts, then store them in a cool, dry place for winter use. They were prepared countless ways: baked, steamed, mashed, or added to soups, stews, breads, and pies. Even the seeds were valuable. Roasted, they provided protein, healthy fats, and additional fiber. Navy beans. During the Depression, navy beans weren't just a side dish. They were the backbone of American nutrition. These small white beans pack an incredible 19 grams of fiber per cooked cup, making them one of the highest fiber foods available. What made navy beans essential during the 1930s was their remarkable staying power. A bowl of navy bean soup could keep a farmhand or factory worker fueled through a long day of physical labor. The combination of slow-digesting fiber and plant protein created a sustained energy release that prevented the hunger pangs that come from quicker digesting foods. Depression-era families would buy navy beans in bulk, often storing 50-pound sacks in cool, dry places where they would keep for years without spoiling. This long shelf life made them a reliable food source when fresh produce was unavailable or unaffordable. Growing navy beans was straightforward: plant after the last frost, harvest when the pods dried on the vine, and shell by hand during evening family gatherings. The beans could be prepared countless ways: in soups, baked with molasses, or simply boiled with a ham bone for flavor. During the toughest times, even the cooking water was saved and used as a base for the next day's soup. Nothing went to waste. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes were a Depression-era salvation, providing 4 grams of fiber per cup along with exceptional storage capabilities and natural sweetness. These versatile tubers became a dietary staple during the toughest economic times, especially in the South, where they grew readily. What made sweet potatoes particularly valuable during the 1930s was their incredible productivity and storage potential. A single plant could produce several pounds of tubers, and properly cured sweet potatoes would keep for months in a cool, dry place without refrigeration. Varieties like Nancy Hall and Puerto Rico were Depression-era favorites. The fiber in sweet potatoes, combined with their complex carbohydrates, creates a slow, steady release of energy that prevented the hunger rebounds common with simpler carbohydrates. Their natural sweetness satisfied cravings when sugar was rationed or too expensive, making them both nutritious and psychologically satisfying during difficult times. Growing sweet potatoes was relatively simple in warmer climates. Plant slips rooted sprouts, after all danger of frost has passed, in well-drained soil with full sun. They require minimal care once established and can thrive even in poor soil. Depression-era families would harvest them after the first light frost, cure them for a week in a warm, humid place to develop their sweetness and heal any cuts, then store them in a cool, dry place for winter use. They were prepared countless ways: baked, boiled, mashed, or added to pies and puddings for special occasions. Dried corn. While fresh sweet corn was a summer treat, it was dried field corn that sustained families through the Depression, providing 7.3 grams of fiber per cup when ground into cornmeal. This versatile grain was a dietary staple that could be stored for years without spoiling. What made dried corn particularly valuable during the 1930s was its incredible versatility and storage potential. Families would grow open-pollinated varieties like Hickory King or Reed's Yellow Dent, allowing the ears to dry completely on the stalk before harvesting. The dried kernels would keep indefinitely in a cool, dry place, providing a reliable food source regardless of economic conditions. The fiber in cornmeal, especially stone ground varieties that retain the bran and germ, creates a satisfying fullness that lasts for hours. Combined with beans or dairy, cornmeal provided complete protein that sustained hard-working families through long days of physical labor. Growing field corn was similar to growing sweet corn, but the harvest approach was different. Instead of picking it at the milk stage, it was left to mature fully and dry on the stalk. Depression-era families would harvest the dried ears, remove the husks, and store them in corn cribs that allowed air circulation while protecting from moisture and pests. The dried kernels would be ground into cornmeal as needed, ensuring maximum freshness and nutrition. Cornmeal was prepared countless ways, as cornbread, mush, grits, or hoe cakes. When combined with beans, it created a complete protein meal that was both filling and economical. Collard greens. Collard greens were a Depression-era staple, especially in the South, providing 5 grams of fiber per cooked cup. These large-leaved greens were valued for their incredible productivity and ability to grow year-round in warmer climates. What made collards particularly valuable during the 1930s was their exceptional hardiness. They could withstand both summer heat and winter cold, continuing to produce when other vegetables had failed. A small patch could provide fresh greens for months, making them one of the most efficient garden vegetables. The fiber in collards is primarily insoluble fiber, which adds bulk to digestive contents and promotes feelings of fullness. Combined with their impressive calcium content, more than milk by weight, collards provided both satiety and essential nutrients when dairy products might be scarce. Growing collards was simple: plant seeds or transplants in early spring or late summer, spacing plants about 18 to 24 inches apart. They prefer full sun but can tolerate partial shade in hot climates. Depression-era families would harvest the outer leaves as needed, allowing the plant to continue producing new growth from the center, a technique that maximized production from a single planting. They were typically cooked slowly with a bit of salt pork or bacon for flavor, with the nutritious cooking liquid, pot liquor, being sopped up with cornbread, ensuring no nutrition was wasted. Okra. Okra was a Depression-era staple in the South, providing 3.2 grams of fiber per cup, while thriving in hot, dry conditions that would wilt many other vegetables. This heat-loving crop was valued for its productivity and unique properties. What made okra particularly valuable during the 1930s was its ability to produce abundantly even during drought and extreme heat. When other garden vegetables might fail, okra would continue yielding, providing a reliable food source during uncertain times. The fiber in okra is unique. It includes mucilaginous compounds that create a gel-like substance when cooked. This not only promotes feelings of fullness, but also helps stabilize blood sugar levels. Additionally, this slime made okra useful as a natural thickener for soups and stews, stretching meals when ingredients were limited. Growing okra is straightforward in warm climates. Plant seeds directly in the garden after all danger of frost has passed and soil has warmed. Space plants 12 to 18 inches apart, in rows 3 feet apart. Depression-era families would harvest the young pods every few days when they were 2 to 4 inches long, the perfect size for tenderness and flavor. The pods were typically fried, stewed, or pickled. Even the leaves could be cooked like spinach, and the seeds could be roasted and ground as a coffee substitute when real coffee was too expensive. Parsnips. Parsnips were a Depression-era staple that delivered an impressive 6.5 grams of fiber per cup. These carrot-like root vegetables were valued for their exceptional storage capabilities and natural sweetness when other sweet foods were luxuries. What made parsnips particularly valuable during the 1930s was their ability to remain in the ground through winter in many regions. Families would leave them unharvested until needed, using the soil as natural refrigeration. This provided fresh vegetables during months when little else was available from the garden. The fiber in parsnips is primarily soluble fiber, which forms a gel-like substance in the digestive tract that slows digestion and prolongs the feeling of fullness. Combined with their natural sweetness, which intensifies after frost, parsnips satisfied both hunger and the craving for something sweet, a rare combination during hard times. Depression-era families would harvest parsnips after the first hard frost, which converts some of their starches to sugar and develops their distinctive sweet flavor. They were typically roasted, mashed, or added to soups and stews. Their natural sweetness made them valuable for desserts when sugar was rationed or too expensive. Parsnip cake was a Depression-era treat that used minimal sweetener because the vegetable itself provided much of the sweetness. Lima beans. Lima beans were a Depression-era powerhouse, delivering an impressive 13 grams of fiber per cooked cup. These substantial beans were prized for their ability to satisfy hunger for hours, making them perfect for hardworking families needing sustained energy. What made lima beans especially valuable during the 1930s was their dual role as both fresh and dried food. Fresh lima beans could be enjoyed in season, while dried limas provided vital nutrition throughout winter. The variety Henderson Bush was particularly popular for its reliability and productivity in home gardens. The combination of fiber and protein in lima beans creates a powerful satiety effect that modern nutritionists now recognize as ideal for weight management and blood sugar control. During the Depression, this simply meant families could eat less and still feel satisfied, a crucial economic benefit when food was scarce. Growing lima beans was relatively simple. Plant after soil has warmed, provide support for pole varieties, and harvest when beans have filled the pods but before they dry. For dried storage, pods were left on the plant until completely dry, then shelled and stored in cloth sacks or glass jars. Depression-era cooks would often combine Lima beans with corn to make succotash, a nutritionally complete dish that provided both essential amino acids and filling fiber. Dried beans. Dried beans of all varieties were Depression-era lifesavers, with pinto, black, and kidney beans each providing 15 to 16 grams of fiber per cooked cup. These versatile legumes became dietary staples during the toughest economic times, providing both nutrition and remarkable satiety. What made dried beans particularly valuable during the 1930s was their incredible shelf life and affordability. Families would grow several varieties, allowing the pods to dry completely on the vine before harvesting. The dried beans would keep for years in a cool, dry place, providing insurance against future hardship. The combination of fiber and protein in beans creates one of the strongest satiety effects of any food. This dual action helps regulate blood sugar and provides sustained energy for hours. Crucial benefits during times when frequent meals weren't practical or possible. Studies show that beans create a feeling of fullness that lasts longer than many animal proteins, despite having fewer calories. Growing dried beans was straightforward. Plant after all danger of frost has passed, provide support for pole varieties, and harvest when pods are completely dry and beans rattle inside. Depression-era families would often shell beans during evening gatherings, combining work with socializing. The beans were typically soaked overnight, then simmered slowly with whatever seasonings were available, perhaps a ham bone, salt pork, or simply onions and herbs from the garden. A pot of beans could feed a family for days, with leftovers being transformed into refried beans, soup, or bean patties, ensuring nothing went to waste. Beets. Beets were a Depression-era favorite, providing 3.8 grams of fiber per cup while offering the bonus of nutritious greens from the same plant. This dual-purpose crop maximized garden output when every bit of food mattered. What made beets particularly valuable during the 1930s was their incredible storage capacity. Families would grow large quantities in summer, harvest them in fall, and store them in root cellars or cool basements where they would keep for months. Some varieties, like Detroit Dark Red and Early Wonder, were particularly popular for their reliability and flavor. The fiber in beets, combined with their natural sweetness, creates a satisfying food that helped curb cravings when sugar and sweets were luxuries. The greens are even more nutritious than the roots, packed with vitamins A, C, and K, plus calcium and iron, providing essential nutrients that might otherwise be lacking in limited diets. Growing beets is straightforward. Plant seeds directly in the garden about 3 to 4 weeks before the last spring frost, placing them half an inch deep and 1 to 2 inches apart. Thin seedlings to 3 to 4 inches apart and use the thinnings in salads. Nothing went to waste. Depression-era families would prepare beets in countless ways, the roots boiled, pickled, or added to soups and stews, the greens cooked like spinach. Pickled beets were especially popular because they could be preserved without refrigeration, providing color and nutrition to winter meals. Rutabagas. Rutabagas were a Depression-era essential that delivered 3.5 grams of fiber per cup while providing exceptional staying power. These large root vegetables were often called Swedes or Swedish turnips and became a dietary staple during the toughest economic times. What made rutabagas particularly valuable during the 1930s was their remarkable storage capacity. After fall harvest, they could be kept in a cool basement or root cellar for 4 to 6 months without any special treatment. Many families would grow enough to last from fall harvest until spring vegetables emerged, a critical food security strategy. The fiber in rutabagas, combined with their complex carbohydrates, creates a slow, steady release of energy that prevented the hunger rebounds common with simpler carbohydrates. This made them ideal for sustaining workers through long days of physical labor when frequent meals weren't possible. Growing rutabagas was straightforward. Plant seeds in midsummer for a fall harvest. They prefer cooler weather and actually improve in flavor after light frosts. Depression-era cooks would prepare rutabagas in countless ways. Mashed like potatoes, cubed in soups and stews or sliced and roasted. Their slightly sweet, earthy flavor improved with the first frost, which converts some of their starches to sugar. Peas. Garden peas were a fiber-rich Depression-era favorite, providing nearly 9 grams of fiber per cup when cooked. These versatile legumes could be enjoyed fresh in season or dried for year-round use, making them a garden essential during tough economic times. What made peas particularly valuable during the 1930s was their dual nature. They could be harvested young as sweet, fresh peas or left to mature and dry on the vine for storage. This flexibility meant families could enjoy them fresh during the growing season and still have plenty stored for winter meals. The fiber in peas creates a strong satiety effect, especially when combined with their modest protein content. This combination helped stretch meals during times when meat was scarce or unaffordable. Varieties like Alaska and Little Marble were Depression-era favorites for their reliability and productivity. Growing peas was one of the first garden tasks of spring. They could be planted as soon as the soil could be worked, often weeks before the last frost. They prefer cool weather and will produce for several weeks if picked regularly. Depression-era gardeners would often plant successive crops every few weeks for a continuous harvest. Fresh peas were a springtime treat, while dried peas became a winter staple in soups and stews, providing both nutrition and the satisfying fullness that helped families weather hard times. Turnips. Turnips were a Depression-era workhorse, providing 3.1 grams of fiber per cup while offering the bonus of nutritious greens from the same plant. These fast-growing root vegetables were valued for their quick maturity and dual-purpose nature. What made turnips particularly valuable during the 1930s was their rapid growth cycle, from seed to harvest in just 45 to 60 days. This quick turnaround meant families could get multiple harvests in a single season, maximizing their garden's productivity when food security was a pressing concern. The fiber in turnips, combined with their high water content, creates a feeling of fullness with minimal calories. This made them an efficient food during times when getting enough calories wasn't the challenge. Getting enough nutrition while stretching limited resources was the real concern. Growing turnips was about as easy as gardening gets, which made them perfect for inexperienced Depression-era gardeners. Plant seeds directly in the garden in early spring or late summer, about 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart. Thin seedlings to 4 to 6 inches apart and use the thinnings in salads. Nothing went to waste. The roots would be harvested when 2 to 3 inches in diameter for the best flavor, while the greens could be harvested continuously throughout the growing season. Depression-era cooks would prepare turnips in countless ways. The roots boiled, mashed, or added to soups and stews. The greens cooked like spinach, often with a bit of vinegar to balance their earthy flavor. Cabbage. Cabbage was a Depression-era essential, providing 2.2 grams of fiber per cup, along with exceptional versatility and storage potential. This humble vegetable could feed families for months, either fresh or preserved through fermentation. What made cabbage particularly valuable during the 1930s was its incredible keeping qualities. Varieties like Danish ballhead could be stored in root cellars for months without refrigeration, providing fresh vegetables well into winter. When fermented as sauerkraut, it would keep indefinitely, actually increasing in nutritional value through the fermentation process. The fiber in cabbage creates volume in the digestive tract, promoting feelings of fullness with relatively few calories. This made it an economical choice during hard times. A single large head could provide multiple meals for a family. The fermentation process that creates sauerkraut also produces beneficial probiotics that improve digestion and nutrient absorption, something Depression-era families understood through tradition long before science confirmed it. Growing cabbage was relatively straightforward. Start seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before the last spring frost, or direct sow in midsummer for a fall crop. Depression-era families would often grow both spring and fall crops, with the fall harvest being larger and designated for storage. Nothing was wasted. Even the tough outer leaves would be fed to livestock or added to the compost pile. Cabbage was prepared countless ways: raw in slaws, cooked in soups and stews, stuffed with meat and rice for special occasions, or fermented as sauerkraut for winter use. These 15 high-fiber vegetables from the 1930s helped families stay full longer when every penny counted. Today, as we face rising food costs, these forgotten staples deserve another look. Which of these vegetables will you try growing or cooking? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more practical gardening wisdom. Until next time, happy gardening!